And talking of common sense, you may have listened to me over the recent weeks talking about the treasure under our feet. And it feels to me, simple common sense, that if you've got a pile of very valuable treasure under your feet, I use the example of being in the cellar of a house that you've just inherited. Some bright spark has blocked up access to the cellar, and you need to find a way to access it because the value of that treasure under our feet in your cellar, it's like half the mortgage on your house. Just imagine, if you get that treasure out, you can clear off half your mortgage. And likewise, the value of the treasure, the shale gas under our feet in the north of England, across parts of the UK, the value of that treasure is in the order of half the national debt. And yet our politicians, in their wisdom, have decided to leave it there. And instead, they're going to send our money and our jobs to Russia. Well, we know how Putin behaves, don't we? Or they're going to send it to China, or we're going to buy electricity from France, or LNG from the Middle East, when we've got this gas here in the UK. Well, I'm delighted now to be joined by Francis Egan, who's the chief executive of Cuadrilla Resources. That was the first company with a license to start trying to extract shale gas. But unfortunately, the eco-zealots, the eco-bullies, they got in the way, and one thing led to another, and we ended up with a moratorium from the politicians who had previously promised to allow this whole industry to develop and create jobs and to extract our natural resource, and then they bottled it and put a moratorium on. Francis, a very good afternoon to you. So I saw you've written a great piece in today's Sunday Telegraph on the madness that not only were you stopped, and you've spent huge sums of money on drilling these wells, being ready to access this treasure under our feet. But now a bunch of bright sparks and bureaucrats are telling you you've got to spend millions more filling it with cement. What's going on?
Yes, I know. You could hardly make it up, could you? Good morning, good afternoon even. You're quite right. We've spent hundreds of millions of pounds demonstrating that we have indeed a huge treasure under our feet right across the north of England. Trillions of cubic feet of natural gas. And to put that in context, the country uses about 3 trillion cubic feet of gas per year. And we've shown that with a fairly modest recovery, if you could just get 10%, 1/10 of what's under the ground out, we have enough gas to keep us all going for about 50 years. So it's not a small prize; it's a huge prize. But now we've not only been stopped, but we've been told we have to spend our own money filling the wells that we've drilled full of cement, which beggars belief, I have to say.
What's the advantage of filling it with cement rather than just leaving them there? In terms of other developments that may come, whether it's a refined form of fracking or whether it's from the other technologies, why would you fill up a perfectly good drilled well?
Well, I really wish I could answer that question, and you're absolutely right. Man, even if the government, even if they didn't want to end the moratorium now, which everyone is saying they should do, well, you would retain the wells. It provides you with a low-cost option to re-enter the shale rock. And as you say, other technologies, if they don't like fracking, and I have no reason to understand why they wouldn't, but if they don't, other technologies might emerge and they find a way of doing it, and you don't have to drill the wells again. If you fill them full of cement and take away all the pipe work, they're in effect useless. It makes no sense whatsoever. I think, as you say, some bright spark has had a bad day at the office.
It's more than a bad day. And I just want to touch on this issue of viability, because your business has spent, as you say, hundreds of millions of pounds. It has been suggested by some people that it's not viable to extract shale gas here in the UK, and that's the reason that actually it's not being progressed. What's your answer to that?
Well, I think the people who are suggesting that, frankly, are making it a self-fulfilling prophecy. I've heard, various government insiders or government spokespeople who don't seem to want to be named, saying it will take 10 years to develop this. Well, if you drown the industry in red tape, most of it inherited from European Union regulations that we no longer have to follow, then it could take 10 or 20 years. If you get behind the industry, allow it to progress safely. I'm not saying that, it should be a cowboy industry. By no means are we. Then we could have gas flowing within a year and in relatively small quantities, and serious volumes of gas flowing within 3 to 4 years right across the country, not just from Cuadrilla. There are plenty of other companies. INEOS, a very large company with lots of interest here in the UK, has also invested a lot of money in this and is prepared to invest more. So I think that is frankly just an excuse that's put out there.
It sounds like it to me because you and your shareholders are not going to waste your money, and likewise the likes of INEOS, which is obviously a major multinational corporation, they don't want to waste their money either. Now, I've touched on before about new technologies. You just touched on it then, because in a sense, nothing ever stands still. Engineers, creative designers, they come up with new ways of doing things. And this is the case here in the drilling industry, in the gas industry, and indeed in shale gas. So it's another reason, surely, to keep all the options open, because there are other technologies out there other than fracking.
Well, of course, and I think that's the fatal flaw at the heart of our energy policy is it doesn't create sufficient options, and it never stays the course. I've been in this job for 10 years, and in that period of time, I've dealt with 10 separate energy ministers. Now, energy investments, as you know, and I'm sure your listeners will know, typically are long-term investments. They take several years to come to fruition, but then they last for decades. The US shale gas industry was by no means an overnight success. There was 10 years of development before they got any gas flowing, and much of that was funded by the US government, who saw the benefit in security of supply and now are reaping the...
We may have just lost Francis Egan, the chief exec of Cuadrilla Resources, there in mid-flow, as he was talking about the benefit of potential new technologies, because nothing ever stands still. And it's like when they say follow the science. Well, science actually isn't just one course of action. You get different scientists with different views, and you get different engineers creating new technologies, brighter technologies, better ways of doing things. That's how, for example, the smartphones continue to get better and better, because engineers, they improve things, they make things happen, and they sort things out. We've got some other, just whilst we're waiting to get Francis back on the line, and we've got, I think we have now got Francis Egan back. Hi again, Francis. You were just cut off talking about the new technologies.
I think we lost power. Maybe there was a power cut. Yes, apologies. I was just saying, yes, and US gas prices are 6 times lower than European or UK prices.
And that, of course, is because they're using shale gas. So that puts to shame the complete myth that's being perpetrated by some senior politicians, saying that even if we had shale gas, the producers would be exposed to international markets, and it wouldn't make any difference to the price.
Well, it's dangerously wrong and complacent. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you prevent the gas getting produced, as in fact policy in Europe and the UK has done, well, don't be surprised when you have a deficit. If you allow the gas to be produced in the US, they actually have a surplus, and they are exporting their shale gas across the Atlantic to the UK and Europe, where we have plenty of our own but won't produce it. I mean, it's bordering on criminal negligence, that.
I think it is. We've got some great tweets coming in, Francis, just whilst you've been talking. Richie says, it makes no sense to Richie to leave this treasure untouched, like you said before. If it doesn't make sense, follow the money. Well, I think that is the point. And another observation here, talking about the fact there's more vibration from the construction of the HS2 train line than from fracking. Are you hopeful that with the potential for new technologies and growing pressure from parts of the Tory party, Francis, that actually we may just be at a sort of a tipping point of change, given what's happening to our energy prices and everybody being so aware of this issue?
Hopeful would probably be a little strong, but I'm encouraged by the support, certainly, of the public, as you've seen from your tweets, and certainly some politicians. But to put the vibration into context, the tweet there is absolutely right. The whole shale gas industry in the UK, across the UK, has been shut down because of one 3-second tremor that was at half the level allowed in the construction industry. One tremor, half the level allowed in the construction industry for 3 seconds, and that has been used as a justification for saying we can't continue. Now, where's the science in that?
Well, I think what we learn from that is that that's not actually science. That is a very well-funded environmental lobbying group who have got they've got access to government, and they've succeeded in terrifying politicians. It seems to me. It
may well be. It may well be, but there are certainly more tremors going on HS2. If we were to apply the same criteria, we'd probably shut down most of the tube network in London. We'd be shutting down train stations. We'd be shutting down quarries. We'd be shutting down construction
lots
sites.
of other construction sites,
and pretty much everything else.
Madness. Well, Francis, we at the home of common sense. I'm going to keep talking about this, keep pushing for this, because I feel that there is a complete dislocation between what the public want, who I think actually want a referendum on the whole net zero agenda. I think the public would want shale gas to be extracted in a safe and efficient way, and that we should try it. And yet, actually, the politicians seem to want something completely different. We'll get you back to keep talking about this. Francis, thank you so much. That's Francis Egan, the Chief Executive of Cuadrilla Resources. And shale gas is the treasure, and we need to find a way to get it out of the ground, because actually that will keep the money and the jobs and industry here in the UK, and it will cut all of our bills and the potential to create a sovereign wealth fund.